All right, well, happy Father's Day to all the dads, and if you forgot that's today, make sure you tell your dad. If you have the opportunity, happy Father's Day as well. We're getting going in week 2 of our series, I Pity the Fool, where we're going to the book of Proverbs, which is one of the wisdom books in the Bible, so the way we can learn how to be more successful at life, how we can actually operate more in the way that God created us to be, and maybe watch out for some of the landmines that come about in life. So today we're going to talk, Proverbs has a lot to say about the way that we speak, and that's what we're going to deal with today. How many of you've ever been impacted by something positive that somebody said to you? Like there's still long-lasting effects on you because somebody said something positive to you. I remember one of the Little League games I was umpiring this past year, the kid that was catching turned around about halfway through the game and goes, "You are the best umpire that we ever get down here. I love it when you umpire." And every time this kid sees me ever since then, he tells me that. Now, umpiring can be one of those things that like most people fuss at you all the time. But if you get like the approval of a kid who says that like you're the best, man, that helps build unbelievable confidence. One of the kids that I coach, I've coached him for like 3 years, he said earlier this year, I told him, I said, I'm probably not going to do fall baseball this year. I said, I'm probably not going to coach. He said, I'll tell you this, if you don't coach, I'm not playing either. Like stuff like that really builds you up, right? One time here at our church, one of our pastors, this was when I was the associate pastor, we were sitting in an elders meeting, and we needed to get a fence put around our playground. And I'll never forget, this pastor spoke up on my behalf and told the elders of our church, he said, just give that project to Scott because you know that it will get done. And just that little vote of confidence at that meeting still affects the way that I work today. So I'm like, because he believed in me. He said that in front of the people, that were kind of in charge of the church. He put so much confidence in me. It put confidence in myself. Like, we've all been affected probably by positive things that people have said. But now, maybe the thing that you think of more often, though, are the negative things that people have said to you. Are you still affected by something negative that someone said? Remember I told y'all about a month and a half ago, like to this day, 36-year-old me, still affected by the time in 6th grade that someone told me that I was poor. Right, like that, I still can see the picture of when that happened. It marked me so profoundly. And one time, I made this mistake. Now I'm wise enough to never, ever do this again, but I didn't know this. When I was in middle school, I asked one of the middle school girls what she thought of the way that I dressed. Let me just ask, if you want your day ruined, ask a middle schooler what they think about the way that you dress. Well, at this time, I was a 6th grade boy, and she said, well, you wear really ugly jeans, and I got to give it to her. I had this pair of jeans that had like a neon orange stripe down the side. Y'all ever see those? Yeah, I had one of those pairs. After this day, I never wore them again. But I was also a big fan of professional wrestling, and so I had some shirts with some of my favorite wrestlers. So she said, you have ugly jeans, especially the ones with the orange stripe, and you wear half-naked men on your shirt. So I changed the way that I dressed immediately because of that. And to this day, I would not wear any of that ever again. And maybe you would, but it affected me because of the way that she said it. Like words, for good or for bad, have really long-lasting effects sometimes. For good or bad. In fact, there was a study that was done once. This is on people 18 to 25, and that these are people that had reported that they had been verbally abused at some point in middle school, which, my goodness, if you've ever been around a middle schooler or to a middle school, you got to think that's probably the vast majority of people. Verbally abused, these folks that had been verbally abused in middle school, actually, when they took brain scans, it showed that there was a lack of connection between the left side of their brain and the right side of their brain. More so than the kids that reported no verbal abuse. And in fact, these folks that had the verbal abuse had higher levels of anxiety as adults, depression, anger, hostility, disassociation, and drug use. Because the verbal abuse that they had when they were a middle schooler, they were still being affected by it when they were an adult. My point here is this. What we say has long-lasting effects for good and for bad. And that really shouldn't surprise us if we're familiar with the Scriptures, because this is what the Bible has said literally for thousands of years. Thousands of years. We've known this, but sometimes we got to hear it from a scientific study, or we got to hear it from a TikTok or something else for it to finally make sense. But the Bible has been saying this literally for thousands of years. Proverbs 18:21 tells us that the tongue can bring death or life, and those who love to talk will reap the consequences. The tongue, what you say, can bring life or death, which means you get to choose how you use your words. You're not locked into a specific way. You're not pre-programmed that you can't somehow get out of the way that you speak. You get to choose whether you bring life or you bring death. Proverbs 12:18 says this: some people make cutting remarks, but the words of the wise bring healing. Anybody ever been on the wrong side of one of those cutting words? Those things that people say that were just a little bit reckless. This happened to me last fall, and I'm telling you, this is last fall. We're almost a year away that this happened, and I still think about this from time to time, and it still causes me some hesitation from time to time. We were doing that series in Genesis last year, and I used a quote from a guy that I don't fully. If I use a quote from someone, it doesn't mean that I endorse everything that they've ever said or they ever done. It just meant that they had a good idea on this topic. Okay, that's just how mature people operate. You take the good stuff, you leave the stuff that you don't agree with. That's how mature people operate. So I used this quote from this guy. The very next day, I get an email berating me from one of our, well, no, he wasn't really a congregant, he had been like 3 times, berating me for the use of this. And it wasn't just that he didn't like the comment. The thing that still bothers me to this day, he goes, I'd like to know what your education and qualifications for the position that you hold are. Yeah, and still sometimes when I'm writing sermons, I still have that thought in the back of my head. Am I qualified to do what it is that the Lord has called me to do? One comment from really like a source that like, who cares? One comment out of all the times that you all walk up and go, gosh, that was so good, so good. I don't think much about those. You think about that one guy that said, where did you go to school at? Isn't that weird? How like you can be told 1,000 times something good, but you'll remember the one negative. That's what we're talking about. When Proverbs says that the tongue brings life and death, like it is for better or for worse, so we've got to be really careful about the things that we say. And listen, there is no end to the amount of sermons that are preached on the ways that we speak negatively. Okay, so if you want to go and find out all the things that you shouldn't be doing, even though I think that they're kind of self-explanatory at this point, you can go find those. I've preached those before. I didn't really want to take a negative slant on Father's Day on how you shouldn't speak. Rather, I'd like to help us figure out how we should speak. How can we be people that actually bring life with what we say? Right? Because, can we just be honest? You don't need another sermon on gossip. You know it's stupid, you know it's hurtful, and you do it anyways. I don't think that if I stood up here and told you about how lying is wrong, I don't think anyone's going to have one of these like aha moments like, really? I shouldn't lie? I don't think that's helpful. I don't think if I told you, hey, you should be less negative, you shouldn't be so negative when you speak, I don't think anyone's going to be going, gosh, I've never heard that before. Right, so instead of just, we know all of that, I want to talk about how can we actually use our words to build people up. Right? Like if you, and I know that not everyone's situation with their dads is what they wish that it was. But I had a dad that with his words always built me up. And that also affects who I am today for the best. I had a dad that spoke like that. And so if you're a dad, you're a mom, you're a teacher, you have some role of influence, you interact with people just ever, this is for you. How can we be people that bring life? Because here's the deal. We were made in the image of a God who spoke life into existence. So if we're made in the image of a God who spoke life into existence, then the way that we speak should bring life to people. But a lot of times we use it for the other. We take from people. All right, so I'm going to just show, I'm telling you, this is going to be as much scripture as you've ever seen me use. Okay? So if you want to follow along, your best bet's going to be to take your phone, hit that QR code in front of you, so you don't have to write down all these references. I want to show you how to speak according to the Proverbs. How to speak in a wise way that if you're speaking to your kids, if you're speaking to your coworkers, if you're speaking to your spouse, your friends, your neighbors, people that you have to interact with on different teams or whatever it might be, how you can be the one that brings life. Because listen, there will be plenty of people around you that will bring death with their words. So you don't have to be one more person that brings death. You could actually be different in the way that you speak. And people around you will take notice of it. People around you. So I'm going to run you through a series of questions and show you some passages from Proverbs that this is how, when we speak like this is how we bring life. This is how we encourage. This is how we build up. Here's the first question. Are your words encouraging? Do you speak more words of discouragement or do you speak words of encouragement? You guys ever go to the airport and they always have that the little announcement that says, if you see something, say something. Right? Now they're talking about suspicious baggage, but I think see something, say something works really good with our words. Like if you see something praiseworthy, you should encourage it. You should say it. Like sometimes we feel so embarrassed about saying encouraging things to people. Why? Look, I'm going to practice it right now. During the first song this morning, I thought our lighting, Jacob, was absolutely fantastic. I think that you and the production team nailed that first song on the lighting. Thank you for doing such an excellent job. Encouragement. Like if you see it, say it. Man, I really like that shirt. Hey, I like that shoes. Hey, you did a great job on that project. Hey, you cleaned your room so good. If you see it, say something. Are your words encouraging? Look what the scriptures have to say. Proverbs 10:21. The words of the godly encourage many. Are you godly? If so, your words should encourage many. But fools are destroyed by their lack of common sense. We should be people that speak encouragement. Paul says this in the New Testament in Ephesians 4:29. Don't use foul or abusive language. Let everything that you say be good and helpful so that your words will be an encouragement. Like, could you imagine every interaction that you have, every time that you interact with someone, rather than trying to take something from the conversation, what if you were there to give something every time? That every time that you interacted with someone, you were looking for something positive about them that you could encourage, that you could build up. I'm telling you, if we did this in our homes, this would change our homes. If you did this at your job, you could literally change the atmosphere of that place that maybe you don't like being. Are your words encouraging? Seek to give in conversation rather than take. Here's my next question. Are your words truthful? Are your words truthful? See, Proverbs 13:5 says that the godly hate lies. The godly hate lies. Are your words truthful? Now listen, sometimes people think, well, the way to speak encouraging and life-giving words is to never say anything difficult. That's not the case. That's not the case whatsoever. Sometimes as a pastor and as a boss, sometimes I have to have difficult conversations. I don't just go, well, I'm supposed to be an encourager, so I just don't ever say anything negative. That's not actually the case. That's just a ridiculous view of life and the Scriptures. You have to have tough conversations with people. However, you can do them like the Apostle Paul says in Ephesians chapter 4. Instead, we will speak the truth in love. So sometimes you have to have corrective conversations with your kids. Try to speak the truth in love. So speaking the truth means that we don't shy away from really difficult situation. That doesn't mean that at all. It also, like think about this. Sometimes that we're guilty of this. Whenever you're telling a story, do you ever embellish the details? Like just because like the original story is really not that good, but you want it to be better. So like you add, like dads, when you go fishing, that fish was this big every time. Right? Like, do you ever just embellish the story? Like, speak truthfully. Or like, yeah, are you telling outright lies? Lord, I hope not. But speak truthfully. Speak truthfully. We are made in the image of a God who is true at his very core. So we're called to be truthful in the things that we say. So speak truthfully. Here's the next one. Are your words kind? Not just encouraging, but are they kind? Are they actually nice? See, Proverbs 16:24 says this, kind words are like honey, sweet to the soul and healthy for the body. Like, do you speak kind words to the people around you? Is that how you speak? And like, this is so countercultural because we live in a culture that's like, well, I'm just keeping it real, okay? I'm just keeping it real. They deserve that. You don't know what they said. You don't know what they did. I'm just keeping it real. I'm just keeping it 100, right? Like, I'm just keeping it. No, are your words actually kind? Because the kind words that we speak, look at the benefit. Like honey, sweet to the soul and healthy for the body. So when we don't speak kindly, my guess would be that we could say unkind words are horrible for the body, unhealthy for it. So what do you want to do? Do you want to be healthy for the people that you speak to? You want to be like honey to them? Speak kind words. Here's another one. It'll seem close, but you'll see the difference. Are your words gentle? Are your words gentle? Like, do you consider your approach? Gentle words are a tree of life. A deceitful tongue crushes the spirit. That's Proverbs 15:4. Gentle words are a tree of life. Like, here's what I've learned in 9 years of being a dad. I can't talk to my daughter the same way I can talk to my son. My son is much more resilient in his demeanor. So I can be a little bit more straightforward and forceful with him than I can be with Olivia. Olivia, like a wrong look at her, she melts down. So I have to make sure, am I speaking gentle? Because if not, she's not going to receive that. Right, so are your words gentle? Are you abrasive in the things that you say? Like some of us, you'll go, well, I mean, I got to speak the truth. Pastor said to speak the truth. Yes, but you can speak the truth in a gentle manner. Right? We pat ourselves on the back in our culture for like sticking it to somebody. Ooh, I told them. And like we say that like it's like a badge of honor, like, yeah, good job. You really showed them. But like as the people of God, and I'm not saying any of this that I've got it all together and I don't have a time where I wish I could get a whole bunch of these words back, right? But like, are your words gentle? Are you considering who it is that you're speaking to and making sure that you don't injure in what you say? How about this? This is going to be a tough one for me, okay? Because for some reason the Lord made me in such a way as to, ever since I was a small child, everything that I have ever thought I seem to have said. Anybody else have that problem? And I'm not saying, look, that's the way the Lord made me, but I'm just saying I still gotta control it, because here's my next question: are your words helpful? Are your words helpful? See, Proverbs 10:32 says, "The lips of the godly speak helpful words." Helpful, like Did you know that there are things that you say that are truthful, but they are not helpful? Right? Listen, fellas, let me help y'all out. I'm going to just help y'all out here. You're eating dinner. It's not her best. It may be true. It is not helpful. How was that soup? It was delicious. Period. Not the vegetables were undercooked. You need a little bit more seasoning. It may be true. It's not helpful because she's not looking for feedback. She don't care what you think. It may be true. It's just not helpful. And, God, let me help you one more time, fellas. Never answer the question how she looks in that dress. Unless you're going to say, amazing. That's the only answer. Does this dress make me look fat? Don't go there. Because it might be true, but it's not helpful. All right? Not everything that we think, though it may be true, actually is going to help you. Some of it is really, really going to cause you some problems. And here's how you know. Because you may be wondering, well, how do I know if it's helpful and true? How do I know? It's about your motive. Are you seeking to just complain, or are you actually trying to help? It's about your motive. Is it actually about you, or is it about them? That's how you know whether or not you're being helpful. Here's the next question. Are your words wise? Like when you give people advice, are you giving good, godly, biblical advice, or are you giving worldly advice? Like when you give advice, does your advice come from the wisdom of the Scriptures or from TikTok? Or from, oh, well, somebody told me this and they heard it from them, or like, where does your wisdom come from? Where do the words of advice come from? Like when you're talking to your children, are you instilling into them godly, biblical advice, or are you just passing along the wisdom of the world, which is actually foolishness? See, Proverbs 15:2 says, the tongue of the wise makes knowledge appealing, but the mouth of the fool belches out foolishness. So are you passing along wisdom to those around you? And I mean godly wisdom. Sound biblical advice. If not, here's where you might need to start. Proverbs chapter 2 says this, my child, listen to what I say and treasure my commands. Turn your ears to wisdom. Turn your ears to wisdom and concentrate on understanding. Cry out for insight and ask for understanding. Search for them as though you would for silver. Seek them like hidden treasures. Like go, we talked about this last week, how valuable wisdom is, that you should go after it at all costs. Because if you don't have good godly advice for people in your life, you don't have good godly advice to pass on to your kids, then you got to go get it. You got to know it. It says, verse 5 says, then you will understand what it means to fear the Lord, and you will gain knowledge of God. For the Lord grants wisdom, from His mouth comes knowledge and understanding. Look, hey, parents, the best thing that you can pass on to your kids, and this is what my dad passed on to me, is a knowledge of this book. But can we be honest? And this is what studies show. You might go, well, that ain't true. Listen, this is what studies show. The vast majority of people that call themselves Christians never open this not one time in a week. So guess where the words of advice that you're passing out to your kids and your friends and family are coming from? Not here. You know how frustrating it is for me as a Christian? I'm not going to talk to you. I'm not going to tell on y'all. I'm telling myself. How frustrating it is that every time I'm trying to deal with an issue in my life, that the Lord comes back with these same two things every time, and I feel like I've been following the Lord like 13 years now, and I'd be like, God, can't the answer be something different? And it's always this: prayer, Bible. That's so frustrating. Why can't it be something else that we want to do? Come on, I'm just speaking truthfully. Okay, why can't it be something that we got time to do? But like last week, I'm standing up here preaching, and I'm just thinking about some of the storms that are going on in my life last week. And literally, the Lord is having a conversation with me while I'm sitting here trying to preach to you, and I'm thinking like, Lord, you got to know that this is not a good time for this. Like, I'm trying to focus. I'm trying to talk to y'all, and like, he's sitting here going, hey, Scott, all the messes of your life are because you're not praying enough. I was like, hey, you don't think that could have waited till after service? And then this week, as I'm sitting here getting ready to go through this, he's going, hey, Scott, a lot of the messes in your life, a lot of the mistakes you make are because you're not reading the Bible enough. Why can't it be something else? But it's always that. Listen, you will not find people that are faithful in prayer and Bible study that don't speak godly, that don't live godly, act godly. And so like some of y'all, you've been like coming to church for a while and you're going, why is it not working? Why is nothing changing? It really is this simple. Prayer, Bible. You don't do those two things, you got no hope in the world. Nothing's ever going to change. You're going to stay the same. Trust me, because I'm living it. I've been there, done that. When I'm real faithful in my spiritual disciplines, I seem to act a lot more godly. I seem to be much more close to the image of God that He created me to be. It really is. It really is that. So you got to go get it. Let me ask you another question. Are your words under control? Are your words under control? Look, this is just a sampling too of what the Proverbs say about this. Look at this, 17:27. A truly wise person uses few words, and a person with understanding is even-tempered. Anybody ever had their temper get the best of them, and then you said something that you wish that you could get back? Yeah, me too. Proverbs 29:11. Fools vent their anger, but the wise quietly hold it back. Like, isn't that interesting? In our culture, we celebrate the fools, the people that put everyone in their place. And the scriptures say, but it's the wise that actually are able to hold it back. Not that they don't ever deal with it, but that they don't respond to it in anger. 19:11 says this, sensible people control their temper. They even earn respect by overlooking wrongs. You ever let somebody do something wrong to you and you go, you know what, I'm just going to have to let that one slide. That's actually very godly. I know in our culture they tell us it's weak. It's actually very godly. 15:1, a gentle answer deflects anger, but harsh words make tempers flare. Right? Someone says something to you, you fire back at them and you wonder, well, how did we get into this mess? Right? A gentle answer in that moment would have put out the fire. A hot-tempered person starts fights. A cold-tempered person stops them. Are your words under control? There's another thing when I say are your words under control that the Proverbs, this is going to, if you haven't seen this before, this is going to blow your mind that the Bible talks about this. But I love that the Bible talks about this because I think there's some of us that we need to hear this. It's not just controlling your temper. It's actually some of you, some of me, we just talk too much. Proverbs 10:19 says, too much talk leads to sin. Be sensible and keep your mouth shut. Y'all know, in this world where we're all getting tattoos of Bible verses, can we get this one, please? Can somebody next week just come up and show me the one where the Bible said, keep your mouth shut? I feel like I need to see that on my forearm like all day long, just walk around like this. Scott, keep your mouth shut. 17:28, I love this passage. It says, even fools look as though they are wise when they keep silent with their mouth. They seem intelligent. 18:2, fools have no interest in understanding. They only want to air their own opinions. Hello, social media. You got to share. Like, some of us, we act like our social media accounts, like the people that are on there that, oh, I bet they're just sitting there waiting to find out what I feel like about this situation. Come on. Only a fool thinks that everyone cares what you think. 21:23, watch your tongue, and this is the second time the Bible told you to shut up today, and keep your mouth shut. and you will stay out of trouble. How do I keep getting into all this trouble? Where do all these storms come from? Because I don't just shut my mouth when I should. Last one, are your words timely? Are your words timely? Meaning, like, have you sought, like, before you say something, have you sought the Lord in it? Has He told you to go and say it? Are your words timely? 25:11 says, timely advice is lovely like golden apples in a silver basket. Like, when you tell somebody something that the Lord has directed you to say, it is a gift to them. I was having lunch with Pastor Jared this past week, he told me, he said, I had a dream last night, and when I woke up, I felt like I was supposed to just share this with you. And it was actually something that I had been struggling with, that the Lord showed Pastor Jared something in a dream, and he passed it on to me. And it was something that literally for like a month and a half now I've been wrestling through. Like, are your words timely? Like, when the Lord prompts you to say something, are you going and saying it when He lays it on your heart? Are your words timely? Now, my guess is I went through that list. I know it was a lot of scripture, a lot of questions. As I went through that list, some of you are going, yeah, sometimes. Because that's how I feel, right? Yeah, sometimes I'm very encouraging, and other times I'm very discouraging. And sometimes I'm very kind, and sometimes I'm very unkind. And sometimes I'm truthful, and other times I'm not so truthful. Sometimes I'm timely, and sometimes I'm not. Sometimes I'm under control, other times I'm not. How in the world can we get more consistency? How can we do it? Well, first, you do have to desire it. You do have to desire it, because people don't change until it hurts too much to stay the same. You actually, like, if you want something different, you actually have to desire something different. And here's how. I'm going to give you the cheat code to this. You want to speak more consistently in a life-giving way? Here's how. Jesus says this in Luke chapter 6. He says, a good tree can't produce bad fruit, and a bad tree can't produce good fruit. Keep going, please. A tree is identified by its fruit. Figs are never gathered from thorn bushes, and grapes are never picked from bramble bushes. A good person produces good things from the treasury of a good heart, and an evil person produces evil things from the treasury of an evil heart. What you say flows from your heart. We want to speak more consistently, life-giving. What you have to do is fill your heart with encouragement, with kindness, with self-control, with the things that you want to speak is what you have to fill your heart with. Because what you say comes from whatever is in your heart. It's like a billboard. When you speak, everyone around you knows what's in your heart. It tells on you. Like our heart is what everything that we take in, all the messaging and information we take in settles into our heart, and then ultimately it comes out in the way that we speak. Which is where one of my other favorite Proverbs comes in. Proverbs 4:23 says this, guard your heart above all else, for it determines the course of your life. So if my heart, or my words are always a reflection of my heart, Proverbs says I need to guard my heart, then I need to be more selective as to what I ingest. I need to be more selective in what actually comes in. Like I told you last week, that there is a difference between morality, what God says is right and wrong, and wisdom. Right? There is a difference. Because some things as Christians we go, no, that's a sin. We're not supposed to do that. And then there needs to be a separate category, though, of, okay, maybe it's not a sin, but is it the wise thing to do? Is it what I should do? Not what I'm allowed to do. Too many Christians asking the wrong question. Oh, am I allowed to do this? That's the wrong question. The right question is, should I do this? Because in your Christian liberty, certainly you may be able to do some of these things, but listen, whatever you let in ultimately comes out, and if you want to change the way that you speak, you have to change what goes in. Like you can't, I'm just going to let you know, if the music that you listen to is all negative messaging, what do you think is going to come out? If the television shows and the movies that you listen to are all negative in what they say and in what they portray, what do you think is going to come out? If the people that you surround yourself are gossips, are negative, are liars, are complainers, are backstabbers, are people that talk poorly about their spouses, people that, whatever it is, if that's all you ever ingest, that's what your heart's full of. And that's ultimately what will come out. Like I grew up in the time period where, and I'm sure it's still around, but we've kind of gotten separate from it, where legalism, like where people would take things that like aren't sin issues, but they would elevate them to that issue, to that. So like I grew up in the era of youth groups like burning secular CDs and stuff. Right? Oh, you can't listen to secular music. You can't watch rated R movies unless it's the Passion of the Christ. And like these were all just man-made rules that we just came up with. And I want to fight so hard against that version of Christianity, because that's part of the version of Christianity that made me run from Christianity. But here's what I want to let you know. After 13 years of following Jesus, their heart was in the right place, because they were right in what they were saying, that not everything is good. But like, it's the answer to a different question. Because what I always wanted to know was, am I allowed to listen to this? Am I allowed to watch this? Am I allowed to do this, go there, whatever? I always wanted to know, am I allowed? But the better, more mature question that you need to be asking as a follower of Jesus is this: what should I do? Do I think listening to this certain song is going to send you to hell? I don't, but is it the wise thing to do? Oh, how many of us parents, let's just be honest, how many of us, we complain about the stuff that our children say? We complain, and we're constantly trying to fix what comes out of our children's mouth. You want to fix what comes out of your children's mouth? Fix what goes into their eyes and into their ears. Don't sit there and let your kids listen to just anything and watch anything on television. You got elementary kids and middle schoolers spending most of their day on TikTok, and you wonder why they speak the way that they speak? You want to change the way that your kids speak? It's the same way that you change the way that you speak. Change what goes in. Much more of this. Much more of music that honors God. Much more of programming that is uplifting. Being around people that are godly and uplifting and are speaking the way that you want to speak. That's how you fix the speech issue. If you want to speak the way that we talked about today, you got to change what goes in. Ask a better question. Not, can I do this? Ask, should I do this? Ask, should I do this? Because our words are always a reflection of our heart. And here's the beautiful thing. This is God's word, which is a reflection of his heart. You know what this thing says? That he is crazy about you. Yes, the person that you have messed up, the ways that you have messed up, you have fallen short, the ways that you have fallen short, his word, which reflects his heart, is that he is crazy about you. That he loves you and cares for you, so much so that he was willing to die in your place so the way your sins could be forgiven and you could be made a new creation. See, that's what his heart is, because we find that out from his word. If you've never made that decision to ask Jesus to forgive you of your sins and make you a new creation, today can be that day. Maybe you need to ask God to help you with the way that you speak. I know that I definitely have to do that today. Because I want to speak different, and because I want to speak different, I'm going to make some different choices about what goes in. Because I want something else to come out. We can't put in all negative and expect positive to come out. It just doesn't happen. A tree will always produce the fruit of the seed that was planted. There's no way around that, so you have to change the seed. God, I pray that you would come and speak to us right now, and that we would hear from you without a shadow of a doubt, that you would be near us. Speak to us, God. Let us hear your words right now that might challenge us, might encourage us, and that we might really make different decisions. Not lean into legalism. Lean into wisdom. Lean into the right question.